Hi there, in this episode we're going to talk about the Southern colonies. So the Southern colonies are made up of Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia. We've already talked about Virginia, so we're going to leave that one out. Most of these colonies were set up to make a profit. A few are about religious freedom, and one specifically is about a second chance for prisoners in England. The economies of these colonies are mainly based on agriculture and cash crops like tobacco, rice, and indigo. Indigo is a dye that makes your blue jeans blue. As a result of growing these cash crops, more and more plantations are going to crop up, and we're going to see a surge in slavery. We'll talk about that in another movie as a separate topic on its own. So a plantation is an area of land in which a cash crop, such as coffee, sugar, or tobacco, are cultivated by slaves. The first colony we're going to talk about is Maryland. The Calvert family was a wealthy English family who were Catholics, and they were persecuted in England because they were Catholic. They wanted a colony to make money, obviously. That's truly the point of a colony. They also wanted a safe place for Catholics. So they're going to establish Maryland. King Charles I granted a charter to the family in 1632. The family is going to be very careful in how they plan their colony, though, because they remember back to Roanoke and back to Jamestown and the issues that were encountered there. So Maryland is going to be established in 1633. Many of the people who first come are indentured servants, and having learned from Jamestown, they're going to start a few tobacco plantations. They're going to welcome many different religions in Maryland, and in 1649 they're going to pass the Toleration Acts, which is the first law in the English colonies that allow Christians to worship as they please. So it's really going to be about religious freedom. Economic opportunity, though, is going to be a big pull to Maryland. And up until 1680, indentured servants were the main source of labor, but unfortunately, more and more enslaved Africans are going to be brought to Maryland. The next colony we're going to talk about is the Carolina colony. North and South Carolina used to be one great big colony. Even Georgia, that big hunk of land, was established as the Carolina colony in 1633. And really it was a buffer zone. They wanted to protect Virginia from the Spanish down in St. Augustine. And it was 8 wealthy Englishmen who were the proprietors. Now, what they're going to realize, though, that as the population grows, it's going to be too difficult to govern, and it's just too big. So in 1712, it's going to be divided into 2 different colonies, North Carolina and South Carolina. So North Carolina, like Maryland, many of the original settlers are going to be indentured servants. An indentured servant, as you should remember, is somebody who is going to not be able to afford to come to the New World on their own, so they basically sell their labor for their passage to the colonies. So there's going to be in North Carolina many former indentured servants that have worked off their debt and are now free. They're going to move down from the Virginia, and they're going to establish small tobacco farms in North Carolina. With time, lumber and other economic activities are going to happen in North Carolina as well. In South Carolina, the geography of the southern part is going to be good for growing rice and indigo. Indigo, of course, is the dye that's going to make your blue jeans blue. Unlike North Carolina, they're going to have a plantation system that's being put into place and to growing these cash crops. As the plantations grow, the number of slaves that are brought in grows as well. In South Carolina, there is going to be a town that is established in 1680 called Charlestown. It has a good harbor, and trade is going to come in and out of that city. Next, we have Georgia. Georgia was established in 1733 by James Oglethorpe, and he's going to honor King George and called the colony Georgia. They're going to be a buffer zone. Their land is taken out of the Carolinas, and their land is going to be that buffer zone between the English and the Spanish down in Florida. In addition, Oglethorpe comes up with a good idea. He wants to help people who owe money back in England. At the time, if you owed a debt, it's not like you could file bankruptcy, you were actually imprisoned. So he, instead of putting these people in prison, his idea is to send them to Georgia and let them settle there and work off their debt. As a result, there's going to be several people that come to Georgia from England. At first, he wants to end slavery. He doesn't want slavery in Georgia. Eventually, he's going to be outvoted by the King of England, and slavery in the plantation system will come to Georgia. But at first, he wants it to be small farms manned by these English debtors instead of the large plantation system that is put into place in South Carolina. Okay, that's it for this time.